Let's be honest, modern medicine is broken. Patients are dismissed, doctors are exhausted, and mental health care is decades behind. So it's time to disrupt the status quo, to challenge a system that fragments care, dehumanizes patients, and burns out clinicians. I'm Dr. Georgine Nanos, and this is The Kind Revolution, a podcast about breaking old paradigms, rebuilding medicine with compassion and science, and reimagining what healthcare can be when we finally get it right. Because change is here, and it's starting with us. Welcome to the revolution. Welcome to the Kind Revolution podcast, where we explore the intersection of science, wellness, and compassion in modern healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. Georgine Nanos. Today, we're diving into one of my favorite topics with one of my favorite people, the power of food, not just as fuel, but as medicine, as connection, and as joy. My guest today is Dr. Sabrina Falquier, a triple board-certified physician in internal medicine, culinary medicine, and lifestyle medicine. She's the founder of Sensation Salud, an education and consulting company that bridges evidence-based medicine with sensory awakening culinary experience. Born and raised in Mexico City to Swiss and American parents, Sabrina brings a global and bilingual perspective to her work, celebrating food as a tool for both health optimization and pleasure. She teaches at multiple universities, consults for Olivewood Gardens and Learning Center, and is featured in the award-winning documentary, The Kitchenistas. I can't wait for you to hear about her wisdom on how we can all rethink our relationship with food and how the smallest changes in our kitchen can transform our health, our mindset, and even our communities. Dr. Sabrina Falquier, welcome to the Kind Revolution.
Thank you, Dr. Nanos. I'll let you decide if we're going last name or first names only.
We can go first name. And Sabrina and I go way, way back to the dark days of medical internship and residency. I was a family medicine intern, and Sabrina was my superior in the hospital at UCSD Hillcrest. Oh my God, that was like 23 years ago. Yeah. So we've been friends for a long time. We've been on really crazy healthcare journey, both of us kind of doing different things outside the healthcare system. So tell me, Sabrina, how about your journey and what led you to take this leap to the road less traveled in medicine? Let's call it that.
That's a good way to, when you say that, I'll get to answer your question a little bit, but it makes me think of how it was received when I started going down this road less traveled, and the medical system is really made as really a highway. So if you go to the frontage road, it's not always perceived as quote unquote real medicine or taken seriously. And I realized part of that journey is taking yourself seriously, and from there rippling out that other people take you seriously as well. So my journey, as Georgine, as you mentioned, I love that you say superior, because I never felt superior to you. I'm maybe mentorship role or one or 2 years ahead of you in that space. I want to make that clear. And yeah, I just love even the connection during that time that we worked together, that it felt like the beginning of something that went way beyond the role that we were playing for those few weeks when I was your leader. So essentially I did the very traditional road. So internal medicine at UCSD. And from there, I actually did an extra year, which I guess was semi-frontage road. I actually got funding from the VA hospital to do a women's health fellowship for a year. And before residency, I was actually toying between OB-GYN and internal medicine. And so women's healthcare was always really important to me. And there was a time when the VA was seeing a lot more women coming through the military and not having the resources to care for women. So there was this funding. It only lasted 2 years, that fellowship, and I felt really honored to have that. And then I started primary care at a large multi-specialty group in San Diego, and it was fantastic. I loved and still love long-term relationships with patients, and now clients or collaborations with different communities. So that part of me has continued to stay the same. It was great when my kids were young. I knew the expectations of 18 patients a day, really got great at knowing that 20-minute or 15-minute mark in my head. And yet at some point, there were two things that happened. People started asking me, how's life? And I would say it's good. Like I could check the boxes of life. I had a career that was fulfilling. I was getting accolades from the outside community that I was quote unquote doing well in this world. And yet it didn't feel like enough. And I couldn't hold it. It wasn't tangible, but it felt like, wow, this is it. Like this is quote unquote arriving at adulthood. And I'm going to stop saying quote unquote now. I went to a conference. So there was a year that I had extra CME funding, and I went to a conference in Napa that's called Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives. It's a collaboration between the Harvard School of Public Health and the Culinary Institute of America. The
We went
speakers started
together.
talking.
Didn't we go together?
Not the first time we went, either my second or third year.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt
Yes.
you. Yes, go ahead.
No, a good interruption, because I do have great memories of when you did go, including the wine tasting before the conference. So, which, already just saying that, I feel kind of funny about it, right? Like, to go to a conference that it was fun and included wine, and that already felt kind of like a guilty pleasure in a way. But I digress. The conference speaker started talking, the keynote speaker, and I actually started crying. And that is not something that's very common at conferences. And I did not know what that meant, but I was listening, and I felt this pull with these two people on my shoulders. The conference was 5 days at the time. One shoulder was saying, I could do this with this, and maybe I could do this with it. All these ideas started flowing. And the other shoulder was saying, your work won't let you do this. And about day 2.5, it dawned on me that this is my life journey, and that was my employer at the time, but that didn't mean that had to stay that way. And it gave me this freedom to continue to see where that would take me, that magnet or that pull towards something that I didn't know what it was.
I remember you telling me this story, and that was what motivated me to go to the second I don't know if it was in continuous years. Yeah, no, that I think when you, like you said, medicine is just the traditional path of medicine. You've got almost these, like, you're not even allowed to look outside what might be outside of the general guardrails. And so that's really hard when you hear that voice and you're like, okay, what do I do with it? So it's very brave that you decided to take that next step. What happened next?
So I came back. One of the pieces of advice at this conference is to go back to the space where you work and literally Google teaching kitchens. And I did that. And within 2 weeks of coming back, that was in 2016. I can't believe it's going to be 10 years in February. I found 2 teaching kitchens, which I am still involved with even today, which is pretty amazing to think that initial pull. And one of them is Olivewood Gardens and Learning Center that you mentioned in my intro. And it's a nonprofit. It's 8 acres of land it's all edible gardens. And then they have a teaching kitchen, or a Victorian house that was turned into a teaching kitchen, where it's really empowering community. So mainly a Latino community. And I was born and raised in Mexico City, and coming back into that space of the culture of hugging and really seeing each other for all that we are, or may not even realize that we are yet, or have hidden for so long. I was so drawn to that, of being given permission to wear Mexican pink. One of the chef's coats I wear for some of my classes are Mexican pink on purpose. And the picture above me with the peacock with multicolored feathers, that's the vision that started coming as I started allowing myself to take those blinders off and see what was out there, of not feeling like I had to be sterile with my white coat and the dim kind of the coloring that is very common in the medical world, but allowing that full rainbow to come out and give myself permission to have fun, to realize that fun does not mean that I'm not a serious doctor, that I lose letters behind my name or education, that it really gives myself permission, which then I noticed gave other people permission to be their full selves.
I love that. And I love seeing your videos in your Mexican pink. I love that. Tell me about your multicultural background and how that kind of shaped your perspective on health and on food, and and how that transitioned to the Olivewood Garden experience.
Yeah, so in Mexico City, there was kind of 2 different sides, right? So my family immigrated from Switzerland in the 40s. So that's how we went from Switzerland to Mexico City. And so when I was growing up, there was the colors and the spices, literally the spices used, and the complexity of flavors of Mexican cuisine. And I was drawn to it, more than my siblings were for some reason. Like, I was drawn to the kitchen, the smells, all those pieces. And then some of the summers, because somewhere in the 80s, my grandparents actually moved back to Switzerland, I would spend summers with them. And there, the food was very different. It was literally going with my grandma with the little cart to get food for that very day. So going to the fruit stand and the vegetables and the butcher, and he would give me the ends of the sausages, and I was such a great present to receive from the butcher himself. And then cooking apricot tarts. Apricot and cherry tarts are the two things I remember, especially with my grandma. And they were so simple. So really peak ingredient simplicity mixed with the complexity of the Mexican flair and color. So very different, yet they really pulled on these pieces that I didn't realize were so in me until I entered back into a space that I allowed myself to enjoy cooking in a way that had been so suppressed with being a doctor and raising young kids and all these pieces of society that tends to kind of squeeze us into the space where we don't allow our full plumage to come out.
Yeah, and the irony is that medicine ignores food, which is probably the most critical part of our health. So
Yeah.
let's talk about culinary medicine and what you have done in this field. You are an absolute pioneer. And tell us about what culinary medicine is, how you created it to be what it is today. I mean, because you made it happen. So hit it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Georgine, that you were such an inspiration. I remember when you opened the doors to Kind Health Group, and I was so wicked proud of you for taking that leap of faith. And by you taking it and seeing you really, literally tearing walls, I don't know if you tore walls down, but
I did.
You did?
I did
Okay.
actually tear some walls down here.
Yes, okay.
Literally
But
and figuratively.
Yes, and walking into the space of you creating something new with all the unknowns coming, the financial unknowns, and are people going to walk through that door, all these pieces. So I thank you for giving me permission to take a leap of faith. So yeah, so culinary medicine, I feel like I have to give this really exciting. We just published a paper. It just came out within the last month of looking at re-looking at the definition of culinary medicine. And I say that because the definition of culinary medicine, the simple part, is really taking evidence-based nutritional information, which gives us this space of the why. So maybe that gets us to understand why choose to make maybe overnight oats rather than instant oatmeal or a drive-through donut and a sugary drink. So what happens to my body short and long term? And then taking it into the how. How do I do it with my palate, with what sounds delicious? What is culturally aligned with foods that I like to have? What is aligned with the time I have, the interest and abilities in the kitchen? So really taking all those pieces into account. So the definitions that we have in this paper are actually 4 different definitions, depending if you are in the educational space. So if I'm teaching a medical student or a graduate student that's going to be working in this space, versus the 4th one is really looking at community members. So how do you help people in their own community to take this evidence-based nutritional information, meeting the culinary arts?
Keep going.
Okay. So that's the definition, and where essentially, to fast forward. So internal medicine trained, I went back to school for 2 years to get my board certification in culinary medicine, and then another 2 years for lifestyle medicine. And it really is a space, no matter where you walk in, that if we look at medicine and we think about smoking cessation, for example, the goal with smoking is to get to zero. Right? But in culinary medicine and food is medicine, we all need to eat. We all need to choose what we're going to put in our cup or at the end of our fork or spoon. And this is a space where we are helping people to do it in a way that feels mission aligned for an individual and also goes to exactly what you said. In medicine, we focus so much more on cleaning up the mess after. So looking at not prevention and really ignoring a lot of nutrition that goes into what led to chronic diseases in the first place. So 80% of chronic diseases are related to lifestyle decisions. Often the word choice is made, but often we don't have the choice depending on what is around us, what grocery stores are available or not available where we live. So helping people know that you can prevent, improve, and sometimes even reverse chronic diseases with helping people navigate what choices are made. And then it's not a rubber stamp. That's the other big thing, that it's not one healthy diet or one way of eating, but rather giving people the framework to then have that and then make the decisions of what whole grains they love. Or if we talk about dark leafy greens, which are fantastic for our body, for some people, it might be that kale that's talked about and very trendy right now. It might be collard greens. It might be Swiss chard. It might be spinach. All of those will have the same improvement of health. It's not that one is superior or the superfood compared to others.
Yeah, that's so true. And then the whole focus on prevention is obviously what I've been passionate about as well. So I love seeing this come to fruition for you. Let's talk a little bit about kind of, I think what's happening a lot in social media. There's a lot of there are a lot of myths that persist about in medicine about eating and food. Let's kind of break some of those down. What's kind of out there right now that you'd love to dispel for our listeners?
Oh,
Since there's a
I'm
lot.
smiling. Yeah, I'm smiling as you're even saying that because the amount of protein is on trend right now. It is
Oh
a
my God.
trending nutrient.
It really is. I saw this meme the other day. It's like, I've never felt more peer pressure in my life to eat protein than anything else, like more than drugs and alcohol.
Amazes me is how protein is being put into anything from gummies to
I know.
potato chips to, I mean, the
What
sky's
the
the limit.
hell?
Yeah. So let's talk about just protein in general. To make it clear, Americans eat 2 to 3 times more protein than our body needs. And if we eat more protein, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden our muscles are going to get large. Unless we do physical activity that taxes those muscles, we're not going to
Right.
wake up with giant biceps by eating protein gummy bears throughout the night. That's number one. So our body, no matter if we get, so essentially, when we take protein in, our body's going to break it down into amino acids. And I think of it, if my brother and I were really into Legos when we were growing up. That's really where our spending money would go into. So if most of us can picture Legos, you break it down into all the pieces. Think of those as amino acids. If we're building a house, Lego style, you're going to need some pieces that are 1 piece, 4 piece, 3 piece, all these different configurations. So what our body needs are foods that have those amino acids, which can come from spinach. It can come from animal sources of protein, animal flesh, as I like to say, and my husband always jokes. So animal flesh sources or plant-based like legumes, any beans or lentils. And then our body breaks it down in the amino acids and starts building the house that it needs to build. So if I'm doing push-ups on a regular basis or leg lifts or whatever it may be, I'm going to build the muscles with the Lego pieces I have. If I'm eating all this food and I'm not taxing those muscles, my body's going to convert that extra calories into fat. So you eat all that extra protein, you're not using it, you're going to get weight gain. That's really what it comes down to. So that's number one. So more protein will not equal more muscles necessarily. And number two is that when we need the foods that we need, the goal is always to get it as the closest to the way nature intended. So if we are eating animal flesh, to really think about, say we talk about beef. I'm not going to say that someone should or should not eat from the plant kingdom or the animal kingdom. Well, the plant kingdom, yes, at least 3/4 of your plate. But that controversial protein side is if I'm eating red meat, of thinking about the source of red meat. If it's 100% grass-fed or grass-finished, it's going to have a totally different fat profile than if it's grain-finished. So we are what we eat. And that really fits true with essentially beef as an example.
So I know you may not want to take sides on the plant versus animal kingdom. One of the things I often see in primary care, and especially this is trending also a lot, is this paleo keto diet at all costs. And what I'm seeing is this, just the impact on one's lipid profile and their cardiovascular health. That has a huge impact. And I think the general public is not aware of that, or they refuse to see it, or they don't understand how that impacts our cardiovascular health and what that can mean long term. Let's talk about that a little bit. Again, like not to the exclusion of being, completely vegan, but I think the general American diet is so focused on those animal proteins, as being the primary source of your dinner plate, or primary component of your dinner plate. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that's really important. I see this a lot in men's health, and it's kind of also in women's health as well.
Yeah. So we talk about the plates. There is this trend. We tend to live in a society of kind of all or nothing and all in when we're in, and keto or paleo. And there's one carnivore diet. So yes, those three
Yes,
are
yeah.
very heavy on really having slabs of meat on the plate. And the tricky part with that, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, Georgine, because we need fiber. That is, and one of the parts when we think of, I could go in so many different directions with answering this. So number one, there's no fiber if we're doing a full carnivore diet. And the cardiovascular implications, like you mentioned, are huge down the line. The bowel health, so our gut health, and the increased risk of colon cancer, as an example, is much higher with a fully meat-based diet. And then if we go to, if somebody's choosing to do this And I've had this conversation with people who say, well, my body felt really great on this way of eating. And then they start eating plants and they feel really bloated and uncomfortable and have said, well, see, my body's telling me. Let me help you understand that if your body has not had fiber in a very long time and now you're starting to add fiber back, you will have gas. You will feel uncomfortable because your microbiome or that bacteria in your gut really feeds off of what you give it. And if it has been starved for so long of fiber, which is what it wants, and I want to again make it clear that doesn't mean you pair a protein gummy with a fiber gummy. I'm talking about fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes as sources of fiber. That is what our gut thrives on. So if we've been starving it for so long and now you give it a feast, think of Thanksgiving and how full we feel. That's how your bacteria feel if you've been fully eating slabs of meat and now you're adding anything from the plant kingdom. I'm listening to this, but I'm still going to have my slabs of meat. This goes back to what I just said previously of them really thinking carefully of what are those sources of meat, right? So if you are going to continue eating the slabs of steak, then thinking about how was that piece of steak, that cow, how was it fed and raised? And all beef is originally fed grass. And then at a certain point, most is moved on over to be grain fed. And that means that as it grows and it gets that marbling that's raved about at steakhouses, that has a lot of omega-6. Essentially, all that grain that it was given, which is usually corn-based, is leading to having a lot of omega-6 in the diet, which can be pro-inflammatory. Where if it's grass-finished or 100% grass-fed, then it's going to have a lot more omega-3. And you're going back to the balance that's meant to in nature, where omega-6 and omega-3 are at 1-to-1 ratio. But the way the American diet has gone, we have now completely switched that to having 20 to 30 times more omega-6 than omega-3. So that has an effect. So if you're choosing to eat a lot of beef, really think about what that cow has been ate during its lifetime.
Let's also go back to the ultra processed diet and the rise of colon cancer and how that's impacted our health. Let's talk about that for a second, because I know that's something that you and I both see a lot.
Yeah. So essentially, when we think of the standard American diet, and the acronym is the SAD diet, it really is a lot of ultra processed food. And I want to emphasize ultra processed because essentially, if you take an apple from a tree or you buy it at the farmer's market or at the grocery store, that's unprocessed or really minimally processed. Meaning if I get it from the grocery store, it might have had a small coating of wax put around it to have it stay fresh longer. If we're now making applesauce with that, that's minimally processed. So any cooking or heating that we do, that's already minimally processed. Step 3 would be something like apple juice. So it might be 100% apple juice, but I've now removed all the fiber, which is kept to the side, and kept only the juice of that apple. And then the 4th, that's ultra processed. So that would be an apple gummy bear as an example, where essentially you just have the name of apple still in there, but there's really nothing left of the way nature intended, which would be that apple from the tree. And in our society, we are eating so many ultra processed foods that either again, have been through such a process that it no longer looks at all like the way nature intended, or or it has had so many additives put in there. So now you have, moving away from the apple analogy, but essentially now you take bacon or you take processed cold cuts. Those have so many ingredients added in there that you can leave it on the counter and it won't go rancid or
Nothing will
bad
happen
for months.
for days, weeks.
Yes.
They'll survive a
exactly.
nuclear winter. Yes.
Yes. That's telling, right? Instead of saying like, well, there's less
Yeah.
food waste. But what are you ingesting? Are you ingesting food or are you ingesting a food-like substance?
Right. And that also makes me think about supplements, which is another big trend right now. And we've seen this for decades, but it's really kind of peaking. I don't know if hopefully it's peaking. I see this all the time where people are, they're being fed all of this, this Instagram algorithm of take this supplement to do this and that. And that's yet another example of something that is entirely unregulated, potentially unhealthy, and is intended to replace what may or may not be in your diet. And let's talk about that, because that is something, and I'm sure you see this too. Every 6 months to a year or so, I have a patient that gets hospitalized in the ICU with liver toxicity or kidney failure or something related to some supplement overdose. And this is without fail happening all the time. And people don't get it. They just think, oh, it's a supplement. Go.
What could
Tell
go
me.
wrong? Yeah.
What could go
Yes.
wrong? Except
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So with this one, I'm going to start with a quote by Michael Pollan. He has this great book with these great quotes in there. And one of them is, eat as if you take supplements, which I find interesting. So most people who take supplements are not ones waiting at the fast food drive-thru for their double cheeseburger. It's people that are thinking about health. So they're not sitting there having their supplements as they're waiting for their burger to arrive out of the window. So I like that quote. In reality, when we think of food, so going back to that apple, foods are these beautiful packages with all these micro and macronutrients in them. They're already nature made. But again, in that one-hit wonder, giving me that magic pill, we've moved away from that and say, okay, how can I break down those micronutrients into a supplement form? And that is concerning because our body will always do better to absorb those nutrients if they come in that full package of food, rather than process or ultra process to get to the supplement. And is there a role for supplements? Yes, and to really limited extent. So there are certain eating patterns where somebody might need to take 1 or 2 supplements, or certain stages of life where certain supplements can be helpful, but it is minimal and should not replace thinking about half your plate being fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your plate being protein of your choice of source, and then the third one being whole grains. And that's a great visual to think about. And then what we're putting in our glass of really thinking about it as hydration, not meals along with our meals. So if we think of that 3 o'clock break where you might need some caffeine and you are purchasing a essentially dessert in a glass that goes through a straw. So trying to move away from that and really being conscious of what's in my cup is ideally water or sparkling water or spa water, black coffee and black tea.
Black coffee, not the Sun God specials we used to have in
Oh
in
my
residence.
goodness, I hadn't thought about those. I actually asked my husband, because he still works there, when a new building was put in, I was like, is the coffee shop? Oh, I forgot about those. Those were good.
Those were milkshakes. We used to have milkshakes in the afternoon just to help us feel better because it was a dark time.
Yeah.
So, so much of our culture is just about trying to save time, and a lot of this evolves from time saving measures. So a lot of patients tell me, as I'm sure they tell you, like, I don't have time. I'm so busy. I got kids. I got work. I got all this. So if people want to start making some small, sustainable changes, where do they begin?
So let's go back to what you mentioned about supplements. Supplements are not inexpensive. Like, there's an investment that we're putting into buying those supplements. So if we think of using those resources into bringing the kitchen being more of back into being a part of our day-to-day lives. And depending on what our financial means are, does that mean we go from all the way to the top of having a private chef who creates these meals, or having pre-prepared meals come into our house, or many companies that now will send to your house packages where everything is already pre-measured and pre-cut. So thinking about what stage you do feel like you can invest into, because we think short term without thinking about the long-term consequences. So if we're running around with the young kids from activity to activity and feeding them food-like substances, to use that term again, so it's prepackaged, ultra-processed, it's getting us through the days and the weeks and the years. Yet that is the setup of what our kids that we love, and we're having them do these activities to enlighten them and giving them these opportunities. But what consequences or is that going to have on their health long term if they're not learning the importance of how to cook, how to boil water, how to make pasta, what choices of pasta there are that could be a different health effect on our body? All of those pieces really do have long term consequences.
I think it is like you're saying, there's so many people are in so many different stages of their life where it's not a one size fits all approach, obviously. Let's talk about our kids, because we both have kids the same age, and how does shared meals and cooking experiences change the family dynamic, sitting down to dinner? Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's something that I've always tried to do. I know you do it as well. As they get older and during their teens, they just want to run away. But I force my kids to eat with me. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that shows just the act of sitting down to eat together, what effect it has. And partly it can be a meal that was scratch made at home. It could also be takeout and choosing to take it out of the containers and putting it on real plates. But the act of sitting down, it's about the conversation in a non-forced way. So knowing that you have a landing spot to bring up topics, and a hard topic may not be discussed at that moment, but later on there may be something that's happening in their peer group or to themselves or things they're feeling, that you are creating a space where it could be lighthearted conversation or talking about the state of the world, or the adults talking about goals or going off that line path of careers. They're listening, and that makes a big difference. So that plays a big role. And this is what I'm talking about, bringing back to the kitchen. So if a child has a lot of homework to do, and this is before the teenage years, when they want to be alone in their room, bringing it back to how about they do their homework while you're chopping vegetables, or giving them lettuce to rip for the salad when they're much younger. There's all of those pieces are starting to bring that sense of community back into our spaces, which we're losing so much because of computers and our phones, all these pieces pulling away. So anything you can do to come back to that nucleus can make a big difference. And I don't even know if you know this, Georgine, but one of my areas of interest that I've loved doing is actually teen culinary literacy. So these projects where essentially, just like we want our kid to go off to college or whatever's next after they leave home, where they know how to do their laundry and have a budget, to learn the basic skills of cooking and why. So what is their why? So if somebody's really into sports, that could be their why. If somebody really wants to do well academically, to learn what happens to the body, again, if I have that sugary breakfast and then can't concentrate to do my college application essays. We'll use that as our current example,
Right.
where Georgine and I are both at with our kids. All of those pieces make a huge difference. And in teenagers, one of the parts we want to be careful with is when we start talking about nutrition, especially for young tween and teen girls. That's often a time where eating disorders or disordered eating comes in. So
Yes.
using language that you're really careful with to empower and not be about superficial, how somebody looks in the mirror or on their Snap pictures they're sending their friends. Yeah, that makes a
Yeah.
big difference.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, the
Go
other
ahead.
thing
No,
I
what
want
were
to
you saying?
add, and this goes back to when kids were, so for a while, I actually don't know because our kids are older now. There was this wait till eighth campaign with cell phones. And when my kids were coming to that age, I said, wait till eighth and you need to make a recipe book. This is when you know, this is when you know it was my kids, right? And my son was really upset about this. So he procrastinated for 6 months, which to me, I'm like, great, another 6 months without a phone in his hand. This is great. And it wasn't to come up with recipes from scratch. It was real life. Get online, see something that sounds good, print out a recipe, make it. Was it good? Would you change anything? Like real life scenarios for exactly that culinary literacy. And what was finally my son's point is that he loves fishing. And so he would bring home the fish, and that's how he created his recipes. He started learning how to fillet, how to cut the fish, how
Oh, that's so
to.
awesome.
It is. And it was from his love of something. He and I still don't do great in the kitchen together, but he rocks out, he puts music on, he makes these great dishes. And when I get texts from him now from college that he is batch cooking for the week ahead, I feel like my
Oh,
job
that
as a
must
parent is
warm your
done.
heart. Yes,
So
that's
good.
incredible. Oh my God, I love it. I think that for the kids, that is a huge life skill that is so critical for them. How are you doing this teen culinary literacy thing? Is it
So
something that
some of
other
them,
people can participate in?
at this point, those have been more individual projects. I wish I could say sign up for my fall courses. But it's been through, we actually did one through a whole school district in South San Diego, and we invited kids from all the schools from a specific school district to partake, and we looked at evidence, and it really did show differences in not only the culinary schools from how to hold a knife, but also knowing what to purchase at the store and the whys. I mean, it was amazing to see what change it created over the 16-week period that the course took place in.
Can you help me get from my Instagram saved recipes into like a meal? How do I do that? Because I do that constantly. I have a very large Instagram library of things I would like to make that never come to fruition. How do I help me,
So I would say
please?
going to the farmer's market if you're interested in seeing truly what's like connecting to one of the ingredients and
Okay.
using that as your nidus, because you can almost go the other way. So you see something that's in season, or if you have neighbors that grew something,
Yeah.
near you, coastal town, and all of a sudden it falls into your lap. It's like, ooh, this looks interesting. What am I going to do with it? So then to look it up that way. And that's where the internet can be so helpful. Like right now we're in the fall. So what do I do with a butternut squash? And it can come up with
Yep.
ideas. One of them might sing to you. And you might also, what might sing to you is what you already have in your cupboards to cook with.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I have a lot of olive oil from Greece because my uncle owns an olive grove there. So the only olive oil I use is his. And so anything that incorporates that, I'm all about. So I'll have to give you some
Wait,
of that.
what? How do I get access to some of this family olive oil?
Just come over. I have it. It's actually like here in my office all the time. So you can come anytime and get it. We use it liberally. So you're now training like the next generation of health professionals. What excites you about the future of culinary medicine? How are we teaching doctors and other health professionals to do what you're doing to spread the word, to create this as a movement and to keep it going? Tell me.
That's actually, it's interesting. One of the newer paths over the last 3 to 4 years is I've started teaching at 3 different institutions in different roles. So some of them is with medical students, some of our graduate programs or integrated wellness professionals getting a graduate degree, and coming in from health coaching to future physicians, physician assistant students. And what I love is how eye-opening it is in these conversations for them, no matter the course, to find for themselves first, do they feel comfortable holding a knife? To experience that awkwardness, because it's hard to teach something that you've never experienced yourself. And that's why, and I realize I didn't emphasize this, it's really the hands-on, the classes of really going into teaching kitchens. And this could be a pop-up kitchen, which is currently what we're doing at UCSD. At its very beginning. So at UCSD, we are very much at the beginning with workshops a few times a year for medical students to experience. There are up to 60 medical schools that use one specific curriculum of electives. And some of them are electives, some of them are set into the curriculum in all 4 years of the medical schools. So there's so much movement. So 60 are using one specific curriculum, and there's about 60 others that either created their own curriculum or using other curriculum. So the trickle is coming. And the goal is, just like Georgine, when you and I were going through medical school and residency, we would do rotations in pediatrics and surgery and cardiology, gastroenterology, all these different specialties. And it didn't mean that we were going to go into them, but we knew what those specialties did. So that's the idea with culinary medicine too. We're not in the space and this work to make sure they all become culinary medicine specialists. That's not it. But it's to have upcoming physicians, so medical students, know the language of how to ask somebody about food. So instead of asking, do you eat white rice? And this look, or what'd you eat yesterday? Right. And you can see the patient like editing, like, oh, yesterday wasn't a good day, or
right.
So how do you start that conversation where you're gathering information to help? So as an example, so if you're my patient in this scenario, I just heard you mention Greece. And so that would be, oh, what foods do you enjoy at home? Or tell me how you use this olive oil that you mentioned from your uncle. So I am getting to know you as a human, and food is that conversation, which is so unifying. And in it, as an internal medicine primary care doctor, I know your chronic conditions, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm learning. Okay, Georgine is a sweet snacker or a salty snacker, or she likes to put the olive oil in her food and on her skin, like all these different pieces that.
Sure, I do.
So
actually.
I am learning. And then when we're getting to the point of co-creating a plan, our goals over the next few weeks, it's saying, oh, okay, so I noticed that you like mushrooms. So how about send me a picture? And I used to do this in primary care. Send me a picture of what we discussed. Like, okay, so you mentioned your son on the grill. I have an expression that's grill on, veg on. So if you're grilling a bunch of meat, can you add some delicious produce to that and enjoy it in the same way? So if I make a burger, I enjoy my 100% grass-fed burger, and the amount of vegetables in it make the burger be about really tall, like 6 inches to 8 inches tall. And it's so good to me, like the grilled eggplant and the zucchini and the red peppers. All of that to me adds such a depth of flavor. So I don't feel a sense of deprivation, like, oh, I'm eating a healthy burger. It's like, oh, this is so good. And why not take advantage of having this bun that's going to hold all this deliciousness? And I know I was answering a question, but I kind of went on a tangent there, and I can't remember. Oh, you're my patient in this scenario. So yes.
Yes.
So
yes.
But that's what I'm thinking. So when we're making the plan, now we're going to talk about, oh, could you add? So I'm combining you and your son, even though he's an independent human being. I'm fully aware of that. But say you are somebody that grills. So I would say, okay, how about you use that olive oil with your vegetables, put them on the grill and enjoy it with the other pieces that you already have. So I'm not taking away your love of grilling. I'm
Right.
adding, can we add things you already have at home? You mentioned that you have endless amounts of olive oil that you're willing to share with me. We're on a good step there. And then
Yeah.
how do we use that to add more from the plant kingdom to your already cooking strategy of grilling?
So how do you think that right now healthcare is pretty broken and there's no like the way the system's set up, it's really hard for people in the way they encounter healthcare to have access to these conversations from health professionals like you. What do you think has to change? Do you think it's possible? What's like the dream scenario? What can we do here?
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Okay. So part of when I say we, because I've mentioned a few times of the culinary medicine work. So I mentioned Olivewood. So that's like grassroots level. How do you empower one community? And Olivewood is one example. How do you empower people to work within their communities? Like one of the projects at Olivewood that we did is the kind of little markets and liquor stores in the area. We worked with a local university for them to have a vegetable stand. And whatever wasn't sold of that vegetable stand, which was right in front of the store when you walked in, that the program would actually take it away. So it wasn't on the little store that they would lose money if the produce went bad. So that's
Okay.
on a really grassroots level. And then on a national level, part of the work that I do is working with the American College of Culinary Medicine, as well as lifestyle medicine and the
Did you
Teaching Kitchen
start the
Collaborative.
American College of Culinary Medicine? Are you like the founder of the American College of
No, no,
Culinary?
no, 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 no,
I feel
no.
like
I
you
know
should
you like
be.
to I know you like to uplift me, but I'm not going to take that
I
uplift.
feel
So
like
that
you
was
are.
that
In my mind, you are. So I don't really care who's the founder because
Ooh, I like you. I'll keep you around, especially for rainy, emotional days. Uh, no, so I was on the board for a long time, and I was on the board when the name changed to American College of Culinary Medicine. Maybe that's where the
maybe
gangbangs got
you're
crossed.
you're
So,
still it.
but essentially, this is I know we're joking, but this is actually really amazing. So the work that's being done on a more national level is exactly to answer what you're saying. To really, how do you get the within our current medical system for people to have access to this? And there is growth in that area with new billing codes. If you're in the medical world, you understand what that means. With shared medical appointments is a big one where you essentially get up to 12 to 14 patients in a room that have a shared medical condition. So if someone has diabetes, all people with diabetics come in the room and you spend 2 to 3 hours with those patients cooking
Can you do
hands
that?
on.
You can in a teaching kitchen. Oh my gosh, that gives me
Yeah.
great hope.
Yes. And when I say teaching kitchen, it does not mean it could be what we call a pop-up. So often people
Right.
will do it in conference rooms that many medical groups have. And you can bill per patient, essentially level 3 or level 4. I know we're getting granular for those not in the billing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that is huge. And that's the biggest
That is.
movement as far as how can and it can integrate. Because the other beautiful thing is if you're in these appointments for 2 to 3 hours, there's so many shared experiences with people that have a chronic disease. And
Yes.
to change, often when people, well, I got downgraded if I'm no longer having that one-on-one time with my doctor. Yet if you change that around and say, wait a second, you have 2 to 3 hours now, not only with your doctor in the room, but also with a whole network of people who will ask questions that you may not have thought of or have solutions that you may not have thought of for going all these questions you brought up today. How do you make it happen on a busy schedule? How do you make it happen when you don't have access to fruits and vegetables? How do you make it happen if what's in your pantry are canned and jarred goods because you get food from the food pantry? And I want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be all organic or from the farmer's market. You can eat in a way that is really improving your health from any source of food that's minimally processed. So freezing, canning, jarred,
Yeah.
those are great examples.
That gives me great hope.
Hmm. Yeah, and to add to that, because often there's a sense of it's only like if you're getting food from the food pantry that you have to use canned goods, but that's not the case. Like all of us are incredibly busy, so I can go in my pantry and see that I have canned tomatoes or a simmering sauce to make a curry, and you can mix these foods that have been in your pantry, so you don't have to say, "Oh, I didn't go to the grocery store yet this week, so we have to order out." It's like, wait, let me see what's in my pantry and go from there.
That's brilliant. I love that. Tell me about your upcoming event at Rancho La Puerta. Sounds like a dream.
Yes.
And can I
So Rancho
come?
Yeah, the answer is absolutely. Yeah, so one of the places that I get the honor of working at is Rancho La Puerta, which is in Tecate, Mexico. And essentially, there's a bus that picks you up from the San Diego airport and takes you to the border, which is about an hour. And then from there, we cross over, and then it's 10 minutes on the other side. And I say that part because some people can feel uncomfortable in going in a country that they may not feel comfortable with. And then it is 10,000 acres or more of land. There are 3 spas. There's a teaching kitchen that's one of my favorite kitchens that I work at. And I'm there either between 2 and 4 times a year, either doing nutrition talks or as the culinary educator in their teaching kitchen. And I'll be there next April. And I don't know if you have the dates right in front of you, Georgine, because I can't remember them offhand, but I'll be there in
I
April and then
don't.
again in July. Yeah. But please feel free to reach out either through me or through Georgine, and you are welcome to be a part of this incredible. It really is. It's like camp for adults is the best way to describe it. Every
Oh, I
hour
love
you have
this.
a choice. Yes. From either really exercising, so you could do boot camp and the weight room and all this stuff, or you could go sit in a hammock or go to meditation or sound healing or get a spa treatment, or there's morning hikes every morning of different abilities. And it is beautiful. And I know I've gone myself, my husband, he's a pulmonary critical care doctor, and this is a place that brought him back to feeling human kind of in the later parts of the pandemic. It is a heavenly space.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so proud of you. Okay, so what's next for Sensation Salute? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, I want to continue. So I realize and we talked about this a bit, but really planting those seeds for the next generation is been incredibly important. So whether it's again the teenagers, medical students is a big one. So I'm really leaning into that space of having things grow in culinary medicine in institutions here in San Diego and Southern California, and then beyond that, I have my podcast. So I have 2 podcasts. So I have one in English, Culinary Medicine Recipe, and one fully in Spanish, Medicina Culinaria. So reaching even more audiences. And I realize it's always planting those seeds within educators and people getting educated, which we all are as humans, and also people who are fully Spanish speaking to open the doors for this knowledge for that population, which if you want to learn your Spanish, the podcasts in Spanish are about 5 years behind where podcasts are in English as far as growth and to really touch base. I feel like I have this gift. I mean, truly to grow up in Mexico and have this completely different second language and cultural experiences, and to be able to give that back to empower others through food is truly, I feel like that's my mission in life.
It's so beautiful. So great. Okay, last thoughts, anything tell me what you want our listeners to take away from most from this conversation.
So I would say of this conversation, see what sunk in for you. So there's no test after listening to this, but what part do you keep thinking about later and lean into that? So that's part of it. So whether it's food and how to add more from the plant kingdom and why. And the other part is if part of the conversation that drew in is how Georgine and I, from our career standpoint, kind of went off the main highway. Is there something in your life that you're being called to do and you don't know what to do with it, to just let yourself listen to it when you're going on a walk, when you are enjoying your favorite hydrating beverage of choice, of just those quiet moments when you allow yourself to listen without judging it, without but I should be doing this. What if you didn't do that? What if you leaned into where you're feeling you should go next?
I love that so much. You're going to make me cry. It was so beautiful. Thank you
It's
so
true, man.
much.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's scary. Man, and I'm sure you've had this too. It is really scary to go off the linear
Oh,
path.
yeah. Yeah. Do you have any regrets?
I don't.
I
I
don't
think
either.
yeah, I really don't. It's really feels it's scary, and the financial stability of it, that feels a little bit unnerving at times.
Yeah.
And you learn to curate, meaning opportunities will come and people will want your time and energy, and to start really tuning in with each one and saying, is this where I want to go to next, or does that not feel mission aligned at this time?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for reminding us that medicine isn't doesn't always come from a prescription pad, and there's so much that we can learn from you, from culinary medicine. I'm so happy that this is an emerging future in our medical education system as well, and thank you for your passion and your science and your heart and being with us today. You're the best.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Georgine.
You can follow Dr. Falquier at Sensation Salud and learn more at sensationsalud.com. And if you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And then we'll also link to Sabrina's podcast as well. And then until next time, stay kind to yourself. Bye.
Thanks for joining the Kind Revolution. If this gave you something real, hope, perspective, or a fresh way to think about health, please share it, subscribe, and pass it on. Medicine won't change on its own, but together we can reimagine it and build something smarter, kinder, and create a system that truly heals. This is the Kind Revolution with Dr. Nanos, where science meets compassion and the future of medicine gets brighter one conversation at a time. Thanks for joining the revolution.